Have you ever noticed how the moment you begin to shift, truly shift, not just in surface habits, but in the way you see the world, the air changes? Suddenly, the people closest to you start acting different. They won't say it outright, but you feel it. The odd silences when you speak your mind, the jokes with an edge to them, the unsolicited advice disguised as concern. But underneath all of that, it's not really about you. It's about what you represent now. Your awakening unsettles them. Your mental evolution nudges their comfort zone, and very few people welcome that kind of disturbance. If you're in the middle of this now, feeling misunderstood, judged, or even isolated, you're not alone. What you're experiencing is the early price of forging a powerful mind. Not just any strength, but the kind that shakes the ground, that rattles people, that exposes, without even trying, the fragile walls others have built around their own denial. Why does this happen? Because when someone starts breaking away from the script, they become a mirror, and that mirror reflects the complacency, the fears, the conformity that so many try hard to ignore. Your growth threatens that. Your questions poke holes in the illusion, and illusions don't go quietly. The truth is, a strong mind is not a product of comfort. It isn't cultivated in environments where everything is soft, predictable, and agreeable. It's forged in friction. It's born when you start questioning what you once blindly accepted, when you stop swallowing ready-made truths and start asking the hard questions, even when the answers isolate you. What nobody tells you, but what life itself will teach you if you listen closely, is that choosing to think for yourself is dangerous. Dangerous not just to society, but to the version of you that used to play it safe. It's like shedding skin that once protected you, but now only holds you back. This message isn't for everyone. It's not meant for those who want a life of passive ease, or for those who want to be liked at all costs. This is for those who feel a break coming from within, a rupture, an urgent craving to become more than just a reflection of their fears. It's for those who are ready to build a mind that bends to no one, that doesn't crumble under pressure, that scares people not with aggression, but with clarity, conviction, and presence. If this resonates with you, stay. Because what you're about to confront isn't comfort, it's truth. And truth, once faced, will set you free. But freedom doesn't come cheap. Nietzsche wasn't just a philosopher. He was more like a scalpel to the human psyche. A man who dared to stare into the abyss and didn't just survive the stare, but found meaning in it. He discovered that real strength is not born in order, but in chaos, in the fall, in pain. That's where transformation begins. You must have chaos within you, he wrote, to give birth to a dancing star. That's not some poetic flourish. That's a psychological fact. If you want to build a mind that doesn't flinch, you need to stop wishing life would go easy on you. Stop leaning on empty affirmations and cheap motivational slogans. True resilience is not given. It's earned through suffering, through silence, through nights when no one's watching and your only company is your own thoughts. Think about it. When have you truly grown? Was it during the calm, or was it in the storm? The heartbreaks, the failures, the betrayals, the nights you wanted to give up but didn't. That's when the foundation was laid. Not when things were smooth, but when they were falling apart and you had to claw your way through the wreckage. Nietzsche understood that suffering wasn't some glitch in the system. It was the system, not as punishment, but as fuel, as the engine that pushes you beyond your former limits. Pain isn't romantic, it's brutal. But if you learn to face it, to use it, to grow through it, you begin to craft something rare, a self that does not fold, a spirit that doesn't run from the fire but walks through it and comes out steel. That's when people start to notice you. Not because you try to impress them, but because you stopped trying to impress anyone. You move differently. You speak with weight. Your silence becomes louder than their noise. And that, ironically, becomes threatening. Because here's the deal. Most people avoid chaos. They want predictability, normalcy, validation. But when you become someone who embraces the chaos, someone who doesn't ask for the world to get easier, but instead becomes strong enough to carry its weight, you become the disruption. But chaos by itself isn't the goal. Without direction, it will break you. That's why Nietzsche emphasized the need for an inner core, a grounding force. You can't just live in rebellion. You need to build. And to build, you need to take full ownership of your life. That's where Nietzsche dropped the bomb that still echoes to this day. God is dead. He wasn't mocking religion. He was pointing to something deeper, the collapse of any external authority that once gave life meaning. What he killed was the illusion that there's someone or something out there taking care of everything, that there's a script, a plan, a cosmic parent who will eventually make sense of all the pain. That illusion is comforting, but it's also limiting, because as long as you believe meaning comes from outside, you will never step into your full power. You'll keep waiting, hoping, outsourcing your purpose. So, when Nietzsche declared God dead, he wasn't cheering, he was warning. A warning that with the disappearance of divine meaning, the burden of purpose falls on you. No more excuses, no more pre-written destiny. You become the author now, and for most, that's terrifying. Because radical freedom is a double-edged sword. It liberates you, but it also leaves you with no one to blame. No absolution, no rescue, just you, your will, and your choices. But within that terror lies the seed of immense power. Because once you understand that no one is coming to save you, something awakens. A force, a drive, a fire that cannot be extinguished by comfort or conformity. It is the beginning of becoming. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What am I capable of creating?" You stop following rules and start writing your own, not out of rebellion, but because your spirit demands it. This is where Nietzsche introduced the concept of the Übermensch, the overman, not a god, not a superhero, but a human who has transcended the herd. Someone who has moved beyond guilt, beyond obedience, beyond the need for approval. The Übermensch does not adapt to the world. He reshapes it. He does not ask for permission. He asserts his will. And that's the secret to an unbreakable mind. It doesn't lean on external validation. It doesn't crumble under criticism. It is not arrogant. It's just sovereign. It knows what it stands for because it chose those values through fire, not inheritance. But here's the hard part. Becoming that kind of being is a path of sacrifice. You will lose the comfort of being liked by everyone. You will lose the shallow connections built on mutual pretending. You will lose the version of yourself that needed applause to feel whole. And in that shedding, you may feel like you're dying. But what's actually happening is rebirth. Nietzsche walked this path. He was labeled mad, isolated, misunderstood. But in that isolation, he found something most never will: freedom. Because when the noise of the world fades and you're left alone with yourself, you finally get the chance to hear your own voice clearly. And that is the beginning of true strength. There's something few will ever admit about this path. The stronger your mind becomes, the lonelier the journey feels. Not because you choose to isolate yourself, but because once you evolve past the need for external validation, the world doesn't quite know what to do with you anymore. The scripts they once used to connect with you no longer work. The games they play to feel safe and seen, you no longer play along. And so, gradually, you start to drift. Not out of bitterness, but because you're just no longer willing to shrink to fit. Nietzsche understood this. He wrote about the free spirit, the one who breaks away from conventional morality and refuses to parrot the easy truths. That kind of person inevitably steps away from the herd, and that hurts. It's a subtle grief, the kind that creeps in during quiet moments. But it's necessary because growth needs space. You can't rise while dragging everyone else's expectations with you. Most people live in invisible cages, shaped not by bars, but by the gaze of others. Their thoughts, their choices, even their emotions, all filtered through the need to belong, to not make waves, to not be the one who thinks too much, questions too deeply, or walks too far ahead. But that's exactly what this transformation requires. If you're going to build a mind that no one can break, you must be willing to walk through the desert. And in that desert, there are no signs, no fans, no applause. Just silence. Just you. And in that silence, something sacred begins to take root. The real you. Nietzsche said, "The individual must always struggle not to be overwhelmed by the tribe, because the tribe is comforting, but comfort is a killer of originality. The moment you stop seeking belonging and start seeking truth, the world shifts. You'll be called cold, distant, difficult, not because you are those things, but because you no longer mirror the needs of others. That is the true cost of sovereignty. You will be seen as a threat, not because you've done anything wrong, but because you've done something rare. You've stopped needing them. And in a world that feeds on dependence, emotional, mental, social, that's unforgivable. But here's what no one tells you. If you can survive that solitude, you will gain something priceless. You will possess yourself entirely. And once you do, no one can own you again. No one can manipulate you by withdrawing affection. No one can control you with guilt or flattery. You become immovable, not in a rigid, inflexible way, but in a grounded, sovereign way. You carry your worth within you, and that makes you unshakable. But with that strength comes another confrontation, this time with the collective mediocrity that surrounds us all. You see, Nietzsche wasn't afraid of tyrants or kings. He feared something far more subtle, far more insidious, the quiet, invisible pressure to conform, the tyranny of sameness, the slow erosion of brilliance by the dull weight of the average. He saw that the real enemy of human greatness wasn't oppression from above, it was stagnation from beside, the need for the group to keep everyone at the same level. The moment someone dares to rise, to break the pattern, to think freely, they are met not with curiosity, but resistance. Why? Because your growth forces others to see where they've stopped growing. Your strength becomes an accusation, even when you say nothing. Your presence becomes a threat, because it reminds people of what they gave up on. This is the real battlefield. It's not about fists, it's about energy. The herd doesn't attack with force, it attacks with shame, with silence, with the subtle message, "You're making us uncomfortable, come back. Be like us again." And here's where many give up, because they can't take the pressure of being too much, too intense, too independent, too ambitious, too honest. So they shrink, they fold, they dim the light to make others comfortable. But if you do that, you kill the very part of you that was meant to rise. Nietzsche called this system of control slave morality, a worldview created by the weak, not to uplift, but to protect their position. In this world, strength is reframed as arrogance. Ambition is seen as selfishness. Independence is labeled as coldness. It's not about values, it's about control. But here's what he really meant. The weak don't want to rise to your level. They want you to fall back to theirs. That's the trap. And if you're not vigilant, you'll fall into it. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. You'll start to wonder if you're the problem. You'll question your clarity. You'll begin to shrink, not because you believe you're wrong, but because it's just easier to stop making waves. Don't. The moment you start making people uncomfortable, you're probably doing something right. Not because your goal is to disturb, but because becoming your real self is, by nature, disruptive. You're shedding illusions that others still depend on, and that's unsettling. But it's also necessary, because if no one dares to evolve, nothing ever changes. Still, you need more than awareness to survive this path. You need tools, inner tools, weapons of the mind. Not weapons to attack, but to endure, to maintain clarity in a world built on noise, to hold your ground when you're surrounded by emotional fog and manipulative narratives. What are these tools? First, radical self-honesty. You must be willing to see yourself fully, the light and the dark, the strength and the weakness. You must be your own mirror, because no one else will tell you the full truth. Most people will either flatter you or project their fears onto you. Second, emotional resilience. The ability to feel everything and still move forward. This doesn't mean being numb. It means being able to sit with pain, disappointment, doubt, and still choose growth. Third, intellectual sovereignty. The capacity to think for yourself, deeply, clearly, and independently. This is rare, because most thinking today is borrowed, recycled, secondhand. You must reclaim your mind from the noise of media, culture, even your past. Clean it out, make it yours again. And lastly, creative power. The will not just to react to life, but to shape it, to create meaning where there is none, to carve paths where none exist. That's what makes you dangerous, in the best way. You become a generator of meaning, a force that bends reality, rather than submitting to it. But all of this, it comes at a price. You will lose people. You will lose comfort. You will lose the illusion that someone else is responsible for your life. But in exchange, you gain everything that matters. You gain presence, depth, integrity, self-respect, and the quiet but undeniable strength of knowing that you are no longer playing a role. You are living your truth, fully, fiercely, freely. Most people will never taste that kind of freedom, not because they couldn't, but because they chose not to pay the price. They chose to fit in, to be liked, to feel safe, and that's their path. But it's not yours. You're not here to be liked. You're here to become. You're not here to seek comfort. You're here to seek clarity. You're not here to play small. You're here to rise. And that rise will not be comfortable. It will not be praised. It will not be easy. But it will be worth it. Because once you begin to build a mind that cannot be broken, something irreversible happens. The world starts to shift. Not because it's changing, but because you are. Your perception sharpens. Your intuition deepens. You begin to see what others don't see, to feel what others avoid. And that makes you powerful. Not powerful in the way the world measures power, not with status or wealth or followers, but with presence, with inner gravity, with the ability to walk into any room and change the energy, not by force, but by simply being fully you. That's what unbreakable really means. It's not about being tough on the outside. It's about being rooted on the inside, so deeply aligned with who you are that no one can move you off center. Not rejection, not failure, not loss. You remain, you endure, and more than that, you inspire. Because whether people admit it or not, they feel it. The rare strength of someone who has built themselves from the ground up. Someone who didn't borrow their beliefs, but forged them through fire. Someone who walks alone, but leaves a trail behind for others to follow. And if you've made it this far, if you're still listening, It means something in you has already begun to awaken. Maybe it's just a spark. Maybe it's a full-blown fire. But either way, the shift has begun. So keep going. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not lost. You are shedding layers. You are not too much. You are just enough for the path you were born to walk. And yes, it will be lonely. But that solitude is not your enemy. It is your teacher, your forge, your sanctuary. It's in that silence that the strongest minds are born. And soon you'll look back and realize the isolation, the discomfort, the shedding. It wasn't a punishment. It was a rebirth. So take this with you. Your power is not in your loudness, your compliance, or your ability to fit in. Your power is in your presence, your willingness to stand alone, and your refusal to betray yourself, even when the world demands it. You are not here to echo the world. You are here to remake it.